This is the fourth part of our scripting tutorial, and I'm going to number these a little differently. This was going to be 4.1 because it's a longer lesson. At least the material I'm drawing from is a longer lesson. And I'm going to need to split it up into two videos. So 4.1 is this one, 4.2 will be the next one. And then in this series, the fifth lesson is no examples. It's just where to learn things and how to find information online related to this. So we're going to skip that one. And so the numbering system is going to go 4.1, then 4.2, and then 6. So don't be confused. I'm just matching them up with the lesson. So if you ever need to, use the printed version as a resource, the video lesson numbers will match sort of with that. Okay, so now we're back in the game here. Notice I have the pass ring. I'm going to approach the guard, and I want to identify a problem here, and then we're going to go and fix it. So as I come close to the guard here, am I paused? Yeah, okay. Run close to the guard. And you notice, greetings friend, which is an awkward greeting in real life, but he's saying it twice. And the reason is he is perceiving us in two ways, by sight and by sound. And so to clear that up, we want to change the code so that it only responds if the guard sees us, not if he hears us. So let's jump out and go back into our script. We'll open up SM guard OP. And and here is where the problem is. OSeen is derived from the getLastPerceived function, which returns both the object that was seen and heard. So this script runs twice, OSeen is registered twice, this process happens twice. But we're going to modify this if statement so that it checks for two things at once. Okay? And so let me put a little space in here so you can see how this is going to work. We've got one condition right here. Get is PC OSeen. After that, I'm going to put in two ampersand signs. If you've never heard that term before, it's the AND symbol. It's Shift 7 on your keyboard, but the official name is ampersand. And in an if statement, in most C-based programming languages, it just means AND. So we're going to test for two things to be true. If it's the PC, and we're going to do a function called getLastPerceived, and you can look here all the different ways that you can be perceived. Perceived in any way, getLastPerceived perception heard, getLastPerception inaudible, meaning they're no longer heard, getLastPerception seen, and getLastPerception vanished, meaning they're no longer seen. Those are the four ways that the script can be called. And getLastPerceived works for all of them. So what's happening to our guy is he's perceiving us with hearing and with sight. So let's look at getLastPerception seen. And it says this is an on-perception script to determine whether the object that was perceived was seen instead of heard. So we're just going to put that in there. It's going to return an int. It's a true or false. And getLastPerception seen. Okay? That's how you should write that. And I'm going to clear up that empty space now. But that's how it should look. All right, in order for this to work, in order for this if statement to be true, when you're using AND, both halves have to be true. So if this isn't the PC, but it was seen, it's going to be a false statement, and we'll skip this part, and nothing will happen. Or on the other hand, if it is the PC, but the PC wasn't seen, it was just heard, once again, this would not happen. So let's say our character had some kind of invisibility power. They would be not seen, they might be heard, but that would not fire the script, or would not do this part of the script. Okay? So whenever you're using AND, both of these have to be true. Now there's an alternative to AND, and it's called OR. So if I, instead of the two ampersand symbols here, if I put these guys here, the straight up and down slashes, which on your keyboard, they're right above the return key. It's the backslash key, but you hold a shift and you get this vertical line. So two of those vertical lines there, that's the OR symbol. And if you're using OR, then this will be true if either one of these is true. So let's go back to that previous example. Let's say it's not the PC. Let's say it's a rabbit. And let's say the rabbit was seen. Well, this is true, but this is false. Since we're using OR, only one of them has to be true. And we're saying if it's the PC or if the perception was the seen one, then go ahead and do it. So for OR, only one has to be true. For AND, they both have to be true. And once again, we want to use AND in this example. Okay, with that change made, I'm going to save the script. We'll close it. We'll test it again. And this time we should only get one greeting. I'm going to pick up the pass ring and approach the guard. There he is waving. Greetings, friend. And we'll just wait and see if a second one comes up. If it goes more than 6 seconds and nothing else comes up, then we're good. It looks pretty good. So just one greeting. And that's what we wanted. Okay. We're going to exit this. Actually, hang on a sec. Let me show you something. This is nice because we deleted all the scripts for this guy, which made him essentially a dummy. He's kind of a mannequin. And he only responds to the on perception script. He doesn't do anything else. And that's, not ideal. You want your characters to continue to behave as if they belong in this world, but you want to have control over how they respond. So typically in your games, you don't want to put a player down and erase all their scripts. Those scripts are there for a reason. For example, this guy's my friend, right? He greeted me, greetings friend. But if I attack him, let's see if I can attack him without killing him. I don't want to kill him. I don't know what's making me strong. I might be too strong. If I try to punch him, I might just hurt him. Let's just see what happens here. Let's see if I can... Okay. Well, I was too strong. I just killed him with a punch. So, sometimes when you do this, when you set up these dummies and delete all their brain power, they won't respond like characters would. So you can attack them and they'll just stand there and take it. Obviously, that's unrealistic in a game, so you don't want that behavior. Here, we're going to fix that. Let's jump back to our script here. And the fastest way to fix that is just to take our character and just delete him. And you might get worried there, we put all that time into writing those scripts. Well, remember, the script didn't go anywhere. We still have the script. We just deleted that character. Let's repaint a new character here. So we'll go to our creatures, NPCs, humans, and commoner male. Turn this guy around. And you might be worried here, but we still have the script we wrote, so not much has changed. The only reason we repaint him is to get all those original default scripts back. So let's go to Properties, and we'll change his name back to Guard, change his tag to CT_guard in all caps, and then we'll go to the Scripts tab. And here's all his default scripts. So he's going to have a brain. He's going to operate like NPCs are supposed to operate. And what we're really going to be learning here is how to use the on user defined script. And we'll do it in a couple stages. We'll do a quick, easy version, and then we'll do a more complicated version that lets you do more than one thing. So previously, we had a on perception script, right? So every time he perceived something, he would respond. We're going to do the same thing in a different way. Remember how we learned a little bit about the on-spawn script. And this script fires one time, and it fires when the NPC appears in the game for the first time. It's great for setting up initial conditions and things like that. There's actually quite a bit you can do with onSpawn. What we're going to do is, when the character is created, we're going to let this NPC know that it needs to, whenever it perceives something, it needs to fire a special user-defined script in addition to its onPerception script. So let's go to onSpawn, click Edit. It's going to warn you saying, hey, don't mess with the original default scripts. If you change them, they're changed, forever for the whole module. Click OK, and that's fine. We're going to change the name of it. So we're just going to click this little Save As button here, and we're going to name this one SM_guard_OS for onSpawn. And we're going to scroll down here on the left. We're looking for numbers 234, I think, is the line we want to find. 234 in this section right here. And what we have is a bunch of comments. And actually, some of these lines are instructions that have been commented out. And the one we're concerned with is this one, 1002. And notice the word perceive is right here. We're going to take these two slashes right in front of the set spawn in condition. We're going to delete those slashes. And you see the code changes color. Now this line of code is active. So what does that do? Well, it tells the NPC, hey, when you perceive something, I want you to also fire user-defined event script. And fire it with the code 1002. We'll get into that number and how to use it a little bit later. But the important thing is, when the NPC perceives something and calls its onPerception script, it's also going to call the user-defined event. So we'll save our script, and we will close it. Now, what we did last time was we took the onPerception script and rewrote it. Well, we don't want to do that. We want to leave it as it is. Instead, we're going to go to the onUser-defined script, take this arrow, and scroll until we find SM might take a while to get to it. There's a lot of scripts here. Still in the ends here. There we go. We're looking for SM guard OP onPerception. So we put our custom onPerception script in the user-defined slot. So what that means is this character, when he perceives something, will fire this script, the onPerception, and he will also fire this script. So if we click OK, test our module, we should get the same behavior. He should respond to the fact that we picked up the ring, and he should greet us, even though we haven't written that in the onPerception script. There's his wave, there's his greeting, everything is as it's supposed to be. Okay? Alright, so you're wondering, well, why did we bother? That really didn't change much. Remember, what we want is NPCs that have all of their artificial intelligence intact, but can still respond to things we want them to respond to, like perception events. So this is a better way to do it. Okay, now we're going to get more complicated. So let's quit this. Now, if you look at this list of scripts, we're using our user-defined event script slot. We're using it up. We're using it for the onPerception script that we wrote. Well, what if we want to respond to a couple of different things? What if we want to have a heartbeat and an onPerception, both controlled by user-defined events? Okay, we can do that. It's just a little bit more work. We have to listen for some special codes here. So, well, let's leave this guy alone. We're going to make a new character. So, next to this guy, maybe over here on the right, let's grab a boy character. And we'll rotate around. And let's go to the properties for this boy. Let's change his name to board. And we'll change his tag to CT_board. we'll go to the scripts, and we're going to go to the onSpawn script and click Edit. Click OK. And we're going to do a save as real quick so we don't overwrite the Neverwinter script. And so we will call ours sm_board_os for onSpawn. Scroll down to line 234. And here's the one that we changed on our guard, and right above it there's another one, and we're gonna do both of these. So for the perceive event, line 243, let's just delete those two slashes. Same thing on line 239 for the heartbeat event. Here's how this is going to work. If the board boy here, whenever he has a heartbeat event, he's going to also fire the user-defined event script. And he's going to do it with a special code, 1001. If the boy has a perception event, he's also going to fire the user-defined event script with a special code 1002. And so in our user-defined event script, we can listen for those two codes to figure out if this is a heartbeat we're responding to or a perception event we're responding to. And then we can act differently depending on what's happening. And so let's go ahead and save this and close out. Next, we're going to open up the on user-defined event script. Don't worry about the warning there. Notice there's nothing in here. There's some comments, but here's main, and there's no actual code entered. It's just there's a comment and then it returns and it's done. So we're going to take control of this and write in some custom stuff. Let's do a save as and name it sm_board_ud for user defined. And here's how we'll set this up. First of all, I'm going to put some comments to help us structure this code so that we can keep track of what we're doing. The first thing we want to do is find out, I always have caps lock on, find out which event we are responding to. So we're going to set up a number, and we're going to call that int n called by. And there's a function that will tell us which special code we are responding to. Get user defined. If you type in get user, you'll get the whole thing right here. Get user defined event number. And down here it says this is for use in a user defined script. It gets the event number. Okay? And it will return that number as an integer. So let's type that in. Get user defined event number. There's no parameters, so we do empty parentheses and put a semicolon. If it's a heartbeat, this will come back with the number 1001. That number will come flying out of here, go through the equal sign, and we'll catch it in n called by. If this function is finds out that this is a perception event, it's going to find the number 1002. And it's going to get that number and return it. It'll come flying out of the front end, go through the equal sign, and we'll catch it right there. So by the time we've done this function, n called by should have either 1001 or 1002 in it. Okay, next we're going to do a special decision structure called a switch statement. Now, usually when you want to check if something's true or false, you use if and else. But if there's a number of different codes that you can respond to, like in this case of these on-spawn flags that you can set for 1001, 1002, 1003, there's multiple options. And so the switch statement is really well organized for that. Here's how it works. We type in the word switch, and then in the parentheses we put in whatever number we want to test for our switch statement. So n called by. Let's put in some curly braces here. So right now it looks kind of like an if statement. The switch is going to take a look at nCalledBy and find out what number's inside there. For each possibility, we're going to have what's called a case. So case, I could have case 1, case 17, and so if nCalledBy happened to be a 1, it would do whatever it sees next. If it happened to be a 17, it would do whatever it sees next. See, this is why it's a little easier to use than an if statement, because you can just list your cases and respond without having to do a whole bunch of parentheses and brackets and all that. But we're looking for 2 in particular. We're looking for case 1001 or case 1002. Okay, there's another piece to this puzzle. Switch statements are interesting. When it finds whatever number is in here, it tries to match that with one of the cases. And all of that does is it just starts executing code wherever it finds it. So if you have a 1001 in here, it'll start here and it'll keep on going, and it'll end up doing as many cases as you have here. So if I had case 1003, case 1004, it would do all of them starting with 1001. And the way that you stop that is you put in breaks. And that way, if it finds 1001, it starts here, it executes any code it finds here, and then when it sees break, it stops and leaves the switch statement and picks up the code again right here. So that's the proper way to write it. I'm going to delete these two because we don't need them. So always have breaks with your cases. That's how they work. Okay. So what do we do if it finds 1001? Well, I'm going to put a little comment here that says called by on heartbeat. And what we want this character to do, every time there's a heartbeat, every 6 seconds, we want him to say, I'm bored. And then when he perceives the player, we want him to bow. Okay, so he'll bow to the player. And he'll keep doing both of these things from the user-defined script. So on heartbeat, we're going to action speak string. I'm bored. And then we'll do the break, and that'll be the end of it. So back up a line here. All right, if this number comes back 1002, that means it was called by the onPerception script. So let's put in a comment here, called by onPerception. And in this case, we want to do one of those action play animation. And in order to do this, we want to make sure we have the player, because remember, the perception script gets called for any perception. So it could be any other NPC walking around the area could trigger this. So we want to make sure it's the player, that the player was seen and not heard. And if both of those things are true, then we'll do the bowing animation. So this is similar to the script we wrote earlier. I'm going to create an object called oSeen, and that's going to equal, we're going to set that to getLastPerceived. Then we have to check to make sure that's the player. Get is PC oSeen and getLastPerception seen. Okay, so in other words, if it's the player and the player was seen, not heard, then action play animation. Animation, this is important, you have to do this in all caps. Fire, forget, bow, semicolon. And then below that we have our break. Can back that up. And that should work just fine. So just let me summarize this real quick before we jump back out there. When the player has a heartbeat or an onPerception script fired, it's also going to fire the user-defined event script, which is this one we're working on. when that happens, it's going to call it with a special code. So first of all, we get the special code. It's going to be a 1001 or 1002. We do a switch on that number so that we can send it to our cases to figure out which one it was. If it's 1001, it's from the heartbeat, and so we're going to do this one. If it's 1002, it's from the perception, so we will get the player, or get whatever object was perceived, make sure it's the player, make sure it was seen and not heard, and then we'll play the bowing animation. If that's the end of it, we're all done, we return. So let's save this, make sure you have no errors there, and click OK to save the boy character. I'm going to test this. We'll make sure to pick up the pass ring, walk towards the characters, and watch for the bow here. There's the bow. Greetings, friend, I'm bored. We'll wait 6 seconds and see if the boy repeats, I'm bored. And he does. He's going to keep saying that. He's bored over and over again. Okay, that brings us to the end of 4.1. We're going to continue on with a little addition here in 4.2, where we'll train an NPC to do some animations that make it look like it has a job that it's doing. So this is pretty useful stuff.